My next guest is an Academy Award winner who directed the films Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown, and Kill Bill, Volumes 1 and 2. He also directed the season finale of CSI, which airs next Thursday on CBS. Please welcome Quentin Tarantino. Spader. Spader had to go.
Ah, he had an appointment.
I don't care. He smelled weird. I want him out of here. He smells like goulash with peppermint in it, and
Ooh,
it's really.
That's not the gamey venison smell.
No. Not that great Shatner smell you get. We got a lot.
I'm a Nimoy man myself. It's a little behind the ear. You know?
Nimoy has a strange. Yeah. He should come out with a cologne. Nimoy.
Yeah, I think so.
You smell like a Vulcan. I want to ask you, first of all, I want to talk about CSI, but before we get it, because that's an interesting thing that you're doing, but before we get into that, I have to ask you, because I've had some experience with this, you are going to, there's a TV movie that's coming out, folks, which is the Muppet version of Wizard of Oz.
Yeah,
And you did a cameo in this.
Yes, I am.
So you worked with Muppets, and I worked with Muppets once and had the experience, I'm just curious if you had it too, where you're working with the Muppets, and the next thing you know, you forget they're puppets, and you start talking to the Muppet. Oh, no, and I felt like a jackass, but I'm wondering, did you have that too?
Yeah, no, I mean, actually, the thing about the puppeteers for the Muppets are so cool that it's like, it's part of their art is to lose themselves.
Right.
I mean, I've never actually, you know, other than like watching Saturday morning cartoons, I've actually never seen anyone in real life kind of make themselves invisible.
Right.
But the puppeteers really kind of are masters at doing that. Forget about just on camera, just messing around with the Muppets.
Right.
They kind of make themselves invisible. And one of the, you know, the thing, if you're going to say, okay, I'm going to be a Muppet thing, was great. I had seen him with Kermit. So cool, all right. But also I was like, okay, I want a photo with my favorite Muppets.
Right.
So the photo I asked to have was with Ralph the dog, all right, and Janice, which is like the Joni Mitchell-looking, you know, blonde chick. Oh, hello, how are you? Right. The Swedish Chef.
Right.
And Sam the Eagle. Sure. All right, you know, so it's just, you know, me like there with them all around.
Right.
Well, anyway, Ralph the dog has always been my favorite.
Yeah.
All right. He's always been my favorite Muppet, and so he was right there, and like the you know, puppeteer, you know, he's down there, you know, making himself invisible, holding the puppet up. All right.
Right.
So Ralph is right here, and I started talking to him.
But you started talking to Ralph.
I started talking to Ralph, and Ralph started talking back to me.
What were you guys talking about?
Well, it was like I was like, man, you know, I go, you know, Ralph. I don't get it, man. I've never really cared for Fozzie Bear. You were the big guy in the early, you know, you and Kermit. It was you and Kermit, you know, in the late 70s and the early 80s. What having to, oh, what you gonna do, you know? They all forgot about Ralph the dog. You know, I don't even have a part in this movie. And I would be in the warehouse if it wasn't for you, Quentin, for this photo. You know, not even in the Wizard of Oz movie.
So there was some bitterness. That's great.
And it's Wizard of Oz. It's not like they don't have a dog part, you know. But, you know, Ralph was big in the old days, but now just tickle the ivories. That's all I want to hear from Ralph. Wow. I was like I was having a legitimate conversation with a bitter old movie star.
Yeah. That's crazy. Did you smell booze on his breath? And be like, hey.
I had that going on. But not only that, though, it was like... and like Janice was over my shoulder, and I'm like looking at her face, and I was like kind of like got a crush on her,
right? And
like gave her a big kiss on the lips, literally, you know.
Well, now it's getting sick.
Well,
that's weird.
That was the weird part about it was like actually I'm kissing a guy's hand is what I'm kissing, all right. But at that moment, looking at Janice in the face, it was
yeah, you just go for it.
Lips are big. You couldn't help it.
We had Kermit here once in the early days of the show. I mean, this is like 11, 12 years. Remember we had like Kermit on the show, and the idiot, I'm here like, wow, that's Kermit. Well, they could make 900 Kermit. They have a machine probably cranking out Kermit.
Oh no, but you know, actually, you know, the thing is, they're so good at like, you know, having the puppeteer disappear that like apparently the first time that Kermit was on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Is he was up, you know, Jim Henson's like behind the seat, and Kermit's up there talking to Johnny, and then the sound people came by and they go, you know, you need to talk a little louder because we're not, you know, in between the commercial, we're not getting Kermit well enough. Because, well, I talk in my own voice and I've never had a problem. They were booming Kermit.
They had the mic next to the
puppet.
That's great. These are TV.
TV professional.
You get sucked in. You're like, what does Kermit have to say? There's nothing coming out of there.
Well, this is no joke.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They do it all the time. It's happened all the time in the Muppet movie where literally when we were getting ready to do our scene, you know, you have like the script supervisor and they're always taking a little photo to make sure the coffee cup is here and the card is there and the microphone's there. You know, they're always doing little things like that. So Kermit was just sitting at the table with the puppeteer underneath. Right. All right. And then she like took a little Polaroid and she goes, okay, flashing. All right, and took the photo, and then like Kermit went like this, you know, with his eye. All right, and then she without thinking goes, oh, I'm sorry. All right, and then like, oh, I'm such an idiot. All right, the whole crew's like,
So sorry to. I hope I didn't hurt your golf ball.
Right, yeah.
Ping pong ball.
Well, yeah, the little Kermit handler.
Now, I have to ask you, we got to get to this, because I think it's a very cool thing you're doing. You know, you're so, you know, had so much success directing film, but you just happen to like the show CSI. And I get, did you ask if you could guest direct?
No, it's in the course of going from, you know, like say, you know, this award show or that award show. I've met different cast members and different producers and stuff from the show, and they've all known that I'm a fan of it because I've mentioned it. So I came up there and I had an idea for a show, and here's the interesting thing. Like, you have an idea for a show, and the idea that I had for my episode was the fact that somebody who had a vendetta against CSI, somebody who wanted to make them pay, was to kidnap a member of the team, of the CSI team, and then bury them alive in this specially designed coffin that would keep them alive for a certain amount of hours in order to do a kidnapping. And well, you know, that was my idea.
And it gets everyone on CSI has to crack this.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
This person
There's no
is,
A story, B story. No, it's just one story, all right? And everyone on the team is together trying to save one of their own. All right, and also it's like, yeah, it's like a real thriller, and there's a guy, he's underneath, he's in the ground, and the specially designed coffin. Now, the thing about it was, where I got the idea was back when I was about, God, maybe about 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old. All right, there was this TV movie that was on the ABC Movie of the Week. All right, called The Longest Night. All right, and I just saw it once. It was based on a true story. All right, and it was with David Jansen and James Tarantino. It was called The Longest Night. And it was a show about like a true story where a girl was kidnapped and put in this specially designed coffin for the kidnapping. So I go, well, that would be a really good idea for like an episode. All right. So I haven't seen it since I was like 7 or 8. Haven't seen it since 1972. Only saw it once, but never quite forgot it.
But it stayed in there,
Always stayed in there, all right? It's something about our generation. Those movies of the week really tend to stay in there, and you never get a chance to see them again.
Tell me about it. I saw Duel. You know, I remember when I saw Duel, I think on TV, and then later found out it was directed by Steven Spielberg. It was his TV movie.
Well, remember, you'd see those movies on TV, then you go at school and talk, man, did you see The Longest Night last night? Oh, yeah, that was really good. Did you see Trilogy of Terror with a witch doctor doll? Yeah, that was great.
I tried to do that, but people were just holding my head in the toilet.
So the weird part about it was, so I mentioned this TV movie. I hadn't seen it since. Didn't want to see it since. All right. You know, when we did the show, They have this one. His name is Alex Smite. And he's the editor of the show. He's been editing it since the very beginning. All right. Now he's the son of Jack Smite, who's a director. He did Airport 75, Damnation Alley, all these really cool movies. All right. Anyway, I go down into the editing room to edit the episode. And he goes, you know, I tell him about this Longest Night thing. And he goes, you know, my dad did a TV movie that sounds sort of like that, but I never saw it. I was a little kid. And we looked it up. His dad directed the movie The Longest Night.
See, that's cool. Must be very cool for you that this medium that you were watching as a kid and that you were a huge fan of, now you're participating in it, and it's kind of like the stars are lining up.
I mean, that was
very nice.
That was wild. I mean, you know, editing an episode with Jack Smite, the guy who directed Damnation Alley and Airport 75 would be cool enough. The fact that he actually directed the TV movie that I used as the idea to base the entire episode on, that's like crazy synchronicity.
Well, also, I think we're similar in that I've had the opportunity to meet huge international stars since I started, you know, doing this show, and I get to meet these giant, you know, A-list people. The people I get really excited about always are you were the bugler on F Troop. It's that stuff that like connects, and you're like, because that means something to you. You connect on a personal level.
And you were on V.
I don't go that far. I wish we had more time, but sadly we don't. But CSI's 2-hour season finale, which Quentin directed, airs Thursday night at 8 on CBS.
Not 9 o'clock, all right? That's normally when it's on. It's 2 hours, so turn it on at 8.
And it'll be available in Beijing soon on the Adrenaline
Channel.
Quentin Tarantino, thank you. Robert Plant coming up. tuned. Next week, we got some amazing guests coming up, including Andy Richter going to be here, Donald Trump, Amy Poehler, Ted Danson, Robin Williams, much, much more. So watch those shows. Robert Plant when we get back. So stick around. Everybody. Well, folks, that's our show. Do you want to thank all my guests? Stay tuned for Last Call with Carson Daly in LA. See you Monday. Bye, everybody. Bye.